Good morning and good Shabbos to you. First off, please excuse me if I'm looking down. I'm looking at my notes so I can make sure I make sense. Anyway, so this week we start the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, also known as the most exciting book in the whole Tanakh. And when I say exciting, it's probably for just the butchers or other people, who love learning about sacrifices and laws. That's your thing? I won't judge. If that's not your thing, I still won't judge. So off the bat, when we're reading through this parsha, it's talking about who should make sacrifices, what should be sacrificed, and for what purpose. Not getting how that can apply to our life today? You're not alone. I didn't know how this can apply to our life today either. So I looked at the Hebrew, and when I say I looked at the Hebrew, I mean I looked at English translations. I looked up scholars' commentaries. I texted a couple people who know more Hebrew than me so I could make sure I actually get it. And what I found was actually a lot more than I expected. So in this week's parsha, it starts off with God calling to Moses and speaking with him at the tent of meeting. Okay, like nothing different or seemingly extra special. We know God talks to Moses a lot. But Rashi, a medieval commentator, points out how there were other people present during that meeting. So how is it that they weren't able to eavesdrop and listen in on that conversation? And Rashi answers that question by saying that God was talking to Moses through a specific channel that only they could communicate on and they could understand on. And so now I ask the question, okay, so what did the other people hear who were in proximity to this conversation? Was it silence? Was it, back when you used to, on your radio, there was static when you were turning the knob and moving the antenna? Yes, I was actually alive for part of that. Regardless, I think this is a good example of how during our lifetimes we go through periods of static and a sense of silence or distance from a higher connection. The channels to connect are in fact there, though they may not always feel like that because, as one commentator points out, our addiction to noise makes it very hard for us to feel a sense of clear guidance and connection to something. The word korban, often translated as sacrifice or offering, can also be translated as getting close. And it's actually the first sacrifices that are mentioned in this parsha are not in relation to sin, but they're voluntary sacrifices that people can do just to become closer to God. And I think too often we don't try to explore and clear those channels ourselves. Like in relation when it's talking about sin, like too often we wait to try and connect with God until we feel like we can't turn anywhere else or we've hit rock bottom or something like that. And we don't often take a more proactive route to try and clear out the channels, clear out the noise so we can connect with something higher, connect with ourselves and something higher. I mean, let's think about it. Since we were all kids, we've been told again and again we need to listen. We need to listen to our teachers, our siblings, our parents, our significant others. Some of us are still told that today. And if you think about it, if we're told, rightfully so, so often that we need to be listening to the people around us, how much more so do you think we need to be listening to the channels that help us connect with ourselves and help us connect with God? How often do you think we actually listen to that, or we actually make space for that to make that deeper connection? In the second verse, God says, when a person brings an offering from his own mikem, and it goes on to say offering from his own cattle and so on, but mikem can also be translated as from himself. So on a kind of a superficial level, the verse is saying when a person takes cattle from his animals, but on a deeper level, it's saying when a person takes himself or herself, when a person takes themselves, they are the offering. They are the sacrifice, and not in like a creepy let's go sacrifice a bunch of people kind of way, but in a closeness and recognizing a higher purpose we can serve kind of way. And while there's obviously no temple and we don't make sacrifices of animals, to get closer to God, sometimes it can seem like we're making sacrifices in our life when we're following Jewish practices. Like we sometimes may feel like on a Saturday morning when we're at shul, we're sacrificing sleep, we're sacrificing watching sports. Or for Passover, you decide you're not going to eat any chametz, but one evening you're really craving a beer, or you're really craving a pizza. Like you feel like you're sacrificing something. But as I mentioned earlier, when we sacrifice some of these noisy things, in our lives, we're enabling ourselves to open up the channels in our lives to things that previously clogged those channels, and we're able to connect with something more. And in chapter 2, it actually talks about, it goes on to say, do not omit the salt of your God's covenant from your meal offerings. On all your sacrifices, offer salt. Okay, what's the significance of salt? Like, I get makes some things taste good, but like, why not sugar? Why not something sweet? There's actually a parable in the Talmud that speaks of this. And so there's a man, he asks his agent to bring a car of wheat to the attic for me. A core is a whole bunch of wheat. How much it is doesn't matter. And afterwards, the man said to his agent, did you mix into the wheat a kav of chumtan? So it's a type of soil that has a higher salt content to help preserve the grain. And the agent said no, to which the man replied, it would have been better if you had never brought the wheat. That seems a little rough, but the point was made because chita, the wheat, represents Torah, and the salt is both a preservative and something that helps bring out the flavor in whatever it is applied to. So as we continue to navigate staying at home, dealing with the noise of our kids, spouses, pets, social media, and ourselves, give yourself the opportunity to not just recognize what is causing all the negative static noise in your life or in your day, but also the things that help clear those channels. Is it going on that walk? Is it, tuning online to cook and bake with friends? Is it reading a book? Write out what that list looks like for you. And it's okay if it's not a long list. It's okay if it's only one thing. Quality is more important than the quantity. And I think in this example, your life is the wheat. In comparing it to the parable, your life is the wheat, and these acts that we do, these things that we do to clear those channels, that is the salt in our life. And those are the intentional activities we need to make sure that even once this whole thing has finished and we've made it through, which we will, when it's all done, I hope you will continue to remember this story and remember to add the salt to the thing that is called life. Add your activities that help you clear the channels every day or every week, or however often you make the time for, however often you can. Add salt into your life, because it will enhance your life, and I hope it will continue to help clear the channels that your neshama, that your soul seeks to both connect to yourself and connect to a higher purpose. Shabbat Shalom.